Hello everyone, this is Johannes.
And this is Cinema.
And you are watching Board Gaming Ramblings.
And today we are taking a look at Carnegie.
This is a game by Xavier George, published by Quined Games.
It plays for 1 to 4 players in about 120 minutes.
So, this game was a Kickstarter campaign that we backed, and now we have the game and we have gotten to play the game a few times, and now we're going to talk about the game, which is kind of like the deal.
Just letting you in on the process.
Yeah, like
it's very
behind the scenes stuff.
Yes.
If you want to see more behind the scenes stuff like this, interesting here about how do they actually make these videos? Do they play the games? Do they just make up stuff? You can hear other of these philosophical and very interesting insights if you subscribe to the channel.
Yes.
How can you do that?
It's a button down there. Just click it and you'll feel very pleased with yourself.
And we will be happy and we will see numbers go up, which makes us like ourselves more.
That's points, basically.
Yay, we like getting points, which is, I like that. It's points in real life. People like us. But today, we're going to talk about Carnegie. As always, let's start with a little overview of the game. And if you're new to the channel and you don't know, we don't do full rules. We're just going to give you a brief explanation so that hopefully the rest of the review makes some sense. This is an action selection game with a follow mechanic. For example, like Puerto Rico had that, like one of the first games who had that mechanism that I know of. Don't blame me if it's wrong. So I'm going to choose an action and everybody's going to do that action. It's going to be different for each player depending on what buildings they have in their little company or what departments they have in their company. And there's only 4 different actions you can choose from. You can move around dudes on your company board. You can build buildings on the map. You can do basically some business stuff, which gives you income and goods and stuff you need in the game. And you can also do research and development, which is researching projects. So you have buildings to build on the map and you can research to go from moving around in a horse carriage into riding trains, which I guess goes faster and it's better for everybody, even the horses. So the game is basically in its core kind of simple. It's not a simple game. There's a lot of layers here, but like what you do in the game is very simple. The first player is going to choose one of the 4 rows of actions, and then you're going to do an event. There will either be a income event, which gives you income. If you have people out on missions, you can take them in and get things that you need. Things that you need is kind of the stuff that you need is what I'm going to say in this video. Or you can do donations, which is this little nifty build your own endgame scoring that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
And those are the things that you're going to do after the event. Then everybody's going to do the action. You're going to start, and then the other players are on the board, and then the next player is going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to do that 20 times.
Yes.
When you do an action, you can activate all the departments on your board with the same action symbol that has people working on them. So before you can do something on a department, you need to move people there and get them to work in that department. There's so many layers, so many timing things in this game to make everything work. You need resources to build buildings, you need money for donations and money for almost everything. And resources are sometimes hard to get, sometimes easy to get, depending on if you're good or bad. And that is kind of like a brief overview of the game.
The artwork in this game is done by Ian O'Toole, and it's beautiful, as it always is.
Yeah.
And I think that Ian is very good at making the game look good, but also serves the function of the game very nicely. So it's not hard to see where you can build your buildings on the map, what scorings are taken or what is available. And also, I think the components in this game is really cool. We do have the Kickstarter version, I think.
Yeah, so the thing we have is the metal cubes, basically, for the cubes.
But I think like the money tokens are really cool in this game. That it's a little shiny, and even though it's like it symbolizes paper money, I think it's nice that it is actually cardboard tokens.
It's one of the nicer money tokens I've seen in the game in a long time.
Yes.
I also think the whole production is very nice. It's Ian O'Toole, so if you like his artwork, you're gonna like this, and if you don't like this artwork and you're a weird person, then you don't gonna like this. The rulebook is around 20 pages long, and it's very well laid out. There's many pages that are the solo rules, the references and all of that, so you don't need to read 20 pages when you start playing the game. It has a very, very nice way of laying it out. It even has like a how to read the rules section at the beginning of the rules, which is nice. It is big pictures, great examples, everything is very well laid out. The game does come with some small rule reference cards. We haven't really used them because I didn't really feel the need.
I agree. It's fairly simple actions, so I've kind of forgotten they existed, but it's nice to have there. I like the opportunity.
Because basically, if you remember how the events work, you will know that if you do an action, you can do all the things on the compartments that you have with the actions on them.
Yeah.
So rulebooks and play rate is 2 thumbs up.
Yes, absolutely. We have played this game with 2, 3, and 4 players. The longest time we spent on a game is 3 hours, which we used when we played 4 players.
Yeah.
And the shortest time was 1 hour, 105 minutes.
Yeah, so 1 hour and 45 minutes,
yes.
basically.
And that was with 3 players, actually.
Yeah.
So
because 2 players was the first time,
yeah.
And then we played 4 players with 2 new players, so it took a longer time.
Yeah.
What did you feel about the player counts? Which did you like the most?
I liked all the player counts. I don't see oh, this is definitively the better one. I like both 2, 3, and 4 players. But with a lot of these games, I think 3 is the sweet spot for time and interaction if I had to choose one.
But the thing with this game is that it's a very different game at 2 than it is at 4.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of interaction in the game, and the more interaction there is in a game, the more different it will feel on those player counts.
Yes.
So if you were to choose, would you, this is going to be more in the gameplay thing, but would you rather play this as a 2-player game or a 4-player game? I have my answer.
Oh, that is very hard because it's 2 very different experiences.
Yeah, that's kind of the question.
I really like the 4-player game that we played though, but I really enjoyed the 2-player also. I don't know if I can choose.
She likes the game.
Yeah, I like the game.
I think that the game is very good, but I think for me, if I could have chosen, I would like to play this more with 4 than with 2.
Yeah.
Because it gives you more of what the game is trying to do. If I can play with 2, then there's many other games I can play that is meant to be a multiplayer solitaire game, which this isn't in 2-player either. There's still quite a bit of interaction, but way less interaction. So, let's talk about all these things.
How the game feels and is it fun?
Is it fun?
What do we like and what do we not like? Well, the game isn't wow, revolutionary with all sorts of new ideas and how does this main board work? We haven't seen this before, but everything that is put in this game works very well together and it feels very fresh for me. It's especially with the choosing of the actions on these, what do you call it? The grid of actions.
The action selection.
Yeah, the action tracks. Feels really fresh to me, and also how you work with your meeples in the factory as well.
I think for me, there's nothing here I haven't seen before. All of the mechanisms, if there's nothing I feel oh, that's new. But I feel like this, for me, we have maybe not played that many of the follow action, but this is the one I have played where it means the most what the other players do.
Yeah.
When you play some of these other ones, oh, you chose that action, oh, I guess I'm gonna do that now. But here there's only 20 actions in the game altogether, so every action really counts. If you miss 2 actions or even miss 3 actions because you can't do anything, which can happen in this game, that's not good.
Yeah, I feel like the game has a cycle. That I have to move people to the places where they can do the jobs, and then they can do the action, and then they have to be sent out on the map, and then I have to get them back and put them into the new spaces, and we go around and around. And sometimes the different players can be at different timings of that cycle in their own game, and it's very interesting to see if you can take advantage of making an action that really disrupts the other player's cycle, for example.
Yeah, or don't do the cycle, which I think would probably be a more advanced play.
Oh yeah.
Because if everybody ends up starting with that cycle, it means that everybody's going to be in that cycle. So somebody has to break the cycle for something interesting to happen.
Absolutely.
Because this game has kind of the thing that we just spoke about in our Come Together review.
Yeah.
That you can play it kind of nice.
Yeah.
You can be oh, I'm going to choose this action. It's good for me and it's good for the other players.
Yeah.
Or you can play it meaner and make it a very much tighter game by doing, that's horrible for everybody and it's okay for me.
Yes.
So I'm going to choose that now. that means that I get to do something and maybe 3 other people don't get to do something.
Yeah.
And not getting to do something is devastating. So that also kind of will make you, probably the first few times you play the game, feel like you have to do a bit of everything.
Yes.
Because it feels like that one of the times we played, there was one action I basically ignored. And then everybody someone chose that, I couldn't do anything. Maybe I had one dude that gave me like $3 or a good in, so I had something to do. But there's really... You can play strategies here where you ignore actions, and that was very important for me. Because the first time I played, I was like, oh, do you have to do kind of everything? And it's kind of... There's different ways to go about doing that.
Yeah, and you ended up almost ignoring one part of the game last time we played, and you actually won. So it's absolutely possible, but it is very devastating to sit there and be like, oh, you get so much more out of this action than me. But when you're choosing these actions, it's a lot of things to think about. It's like, not only is the action good for me, but how is the action for you? I don't want to do an action that is better for you.
Yeah.
And if I see like, oh, Johannes doesn't have any meeples to move around on his board, now is the time for me to move, right?
Yeah.
And then also I have to think about the bonus or like the event that I'm triggering. Do I have people at those areas that can conduct those bonuses for me? Or if I trigger a donation, do I have enough money to make a donation, and does someone else have to? Or if I don't, do you make a donation and I can't do it?
Did not explain the donation. So how those work is basically you pay to put out a token, and that I said it briefly that was kind of end of game scoring. This game has this mechanism which I'm a huge fan of, the make your own scoring. So the donations cost money, more and more money for each time you do it, and you place a token and you will then score that scoring category at the end of the game, and only one person per of them. So it's really the timing here as well. And the timing, as we already spoke about in the actions here, the timing of everything here is so important.
Absolutely. I think that I really like the timing of the puzzle on the board. I think you have restricted movement, or if you're me, you have restricted movement, and if you have 8 meeples and you only can, like, say, move 6 steps, and the factory is built in a way that you sometimes have to move multiple spaces to get to the spaces you want, then you'd be like, okay, but do I think that you will choose this action, then I want to be on this space to do this action the best that I can do? Or do you want to do something other? Or should I spread around to be like, oh, no matter what action you choose, I will be able to do something? And do you want to place on the spaces that lets you move people out on the map? Or do you want to secure your spaces like the meeples on? There's cool things in this game.
We kind of hinted there's many things to use the meeples for. You can use them in your board, and you can also, as I said, move them out on the board, send them on missions basically. And you have to do that to get income, which is a huge part of the game. So half of the events are the income events, or more than half of them actually. And depending on where on the board you will be going, and you will take them in, and you will get some scoring depending on how you move those on the tracks in the spaces, and also on all the different projects or the buildings you built on the board. So let's talk a bit about the board, and that is kind of the, I will say the route building thing is kind of the least interesting part of the game. For me, I think it's fine. It's there. It's kind of you build buildings on different areas depending on then, of course, where you want to place your workers, because you have to place them where you want to build. You will place them depending on where you want to move on tracks, so when you take them back you will get bonuses. Maybe you have a donation that gives you points for having them in different buildings or in different spaces. But also you want to link these big cities, because when you link these cities and you upgrade your transportation, then you will get more points for that as well. And I felt like in the 4-player game we played, one person didn't go for that at all, and we others got like 26-30 points for that. It was hard to to get that points from other things, but I think like if you play it many times, I don't think you have to do that.
I agree.
But there's so many, like if you don't build any buildings, you're not going to get any income, so you probably need to do some building. I think that's a hard thing to ignore completely, building on the board.
I agree with you. I think that the board is a vessel of all the other things that you want to do sometimes, so maybe it's not your main strategy to link those cities together, but building out the buildings gets you a lot of income, so that absolutely is an important part of the game, I think.
Absolutely.
I also think it's really cool the way that you build your personal board as well.
Your company board.
You will choose or might choose actions that lets you have new departments where people can work, and that gives you either active like worker spaces that are different from other people's, or you can also get these like passive abilities
powers,
as well. I think it's really cool that I get like almost the same feeling as in Nations, the board game Nations, where where you have to kind of place the meeples in a good way, but it costs money to employ them to that space. So if I have employed a meeple in an expensive space, I want to keep it there.
Yeah, and you only have so many meeples. There's a way to get some if you focus on getting them, and you can easier to do that.
Yes.
But you need to balance like how many will I put out, when will I get them back, because you can see kind of how far away the next event for a space is. So there's so many very interesting things to look at. There's some variability in the setup of the departments. You're only going to use some of them each game, removing a few of them depending on how many players you are. In the Kickstarter version, I think only in the Kickstarter version, there's like double up on those. There's a lot more variability. If you can get that and you like the game, I think you should do that. But I feel like the game, that's kind of one thing. Like the game might not be that different if you play it many times.
Yeah, I thought about the same thing, how variable in this game is this game. For us, it's not a problem, because we play these games, like these little longer games, fewer times, so I will gladly play as it is with no problems at all. But I think if you stick your foot like a little deeper than we did, I think most of the strategy and most of the variability will come from what you make of it yourself.
Yeah, and the interaction.
So if you go for the same buildings over and over again, you will find yourself, I think, barking up the same tree again and again. Yeah. I think that's fun sometimes.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the puzzle better.
Yeah, but I think that I could have, in these plays that we have done, gone even more out of my comfort zone and be like, okay, and now I'm gonna try this building that gets me trading a lot of stuff, or I can trade these resources points. I haven't tried that.
Yep.
I think maybe you could get some really cool different strategies with that. So I think you have to take a little what do you call it, responsibility for your own variability in this game.
That's kind of the same in all Euro games.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to go for the same strategy if something works. So you have to kind of bounce yourself out of that comfort zone to do something else.
Yeah.
So let's go to the final thoughts.
Yeah, I think we're ready for some final thoughts.
First off, is it fun?
I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Should I just start?
Let's go.
Start the ball. I think Carnegie was... I thought it was going to be heavier and harder and more punishing and more brain burning, and it's all of that but not too overwhelming for me. It's like in this sweet spot where I don't have any big AP moments, but where what you do and what I do feel really meaningful, and sometimes I can feel like, oh, you did exactly the thing that I wanted to do, yes, or no, you did like the one action that I don't get to do anything with, and now everybody else is gonna be in the wrong timing than me, and I'm gonna get very little things done. That can be very frustrating as well, but trying to set you up for success no matter what the interaction gets you is kind of really cool puzzle as well. I just overall enjoyed this pretty much. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I thought it was like a super solid game.
Cool. I like Carnegie. I think it's a fun game. I have enjoyed all my plays. I think most of the fun comes from, like, there's the puzzle, of course, the puzzles that we like, but adding the very interesting interaction, the meanness of that. Like, we don't like the negative interaction, but here it's usually not like, haha, I'm doing it to be horrible for you, but it might be very horrible for you. Like Wildcatters was the first game that felt that way, that we got to play and felt like, oh, that can be actually a lot of fun. Brutal, but fun.
Yeah.
So this is one of those games, I like it quite a bit. I think it's a fun game. It's not a canon of fun, but it's a fun game. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah,
I
cool.
like the game a lot. A little less than you, but I still like it a lot.
I'm just gonna add one tiny
The
thing.
tiny thing.
Because there's more interaction and more that can happen with 4 players, you get like this token that you can use to just like, I don't want to do the action that you chose. I'm going to do my own action. I really like that they've added that so you can do it once if you really need it. That's my thing.
And that's the end of the video. If you are still here and you have not subscribed, you can do so now by
clicking the subscribe button. It's fun and it's free and it makes us happy like this. And if you want to do something that's not free, you can.
Go to patreon.com/boardgamingramblings and support us there.
Yes.
And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Johannes.
I'm Cinema.
And you've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings, and bye bye.